All right, welcome back to the Sunday evening update. Sorry about the little delay there. We had a little problem in the audio department, but we're back, and I was just mentioning going through a sponsor profile here of Canica.com, our ISP for the Immortality Institute. Didn't get to them over the last couple of weeks, and I just wanted to make sure that they got their due as a wonderful ISP that hosts the Immortality Institute. As you can see, they have a package. You can start hosting a site for $3.95. $3.95. Yeah, I said it. $3.95. That's one of the most value-priced options I think you can get out there. And of course, they've been going over 10 years strong, and they have, of course, as you can see, free 24-hour emergency phone support, no setup fees. Can you get any better? You know, strangely, Canica has had some, at times, less than stellar reviews on as far as ISPs go, but as far as the Immortality Institute goes, they're always on top of things and keeping everything going good for the Immortality Institute. So another wonderful sponsor. Now, since we had our little audio trouble, I want to get right into the interview portion of the program. Don't worry, after the interview, we will have an update on the Folding at Home prize, as well as the conference, and of course our fun little snake oil segment. After we get down to talking about what's real in the world of fitness and diet, we'll move on to some things that you should possibly avoid. All right, so without further ado, let me introduce to tonight's program our wonderful guest, Professor Arthur Vany. Welcome to the program.
Thank you. I'm pleased to be here.
Yes, wonderful. And many people I know are familiar with your paleo diet, advocacy, and evolutionary fitness. But for those who might not be too familiar, can you give a little brief synopsis as to the theory and reasoning behind the paleo diet and evolutionary fitness?
Yes, well, some people call it theoretical, but I actually, I consider it to be, are we okay?
Yes.
I consider it to be an empirically grounded science that is uses Paleolithic or evolutionary reasoning to interpret or place in context results that one reads in the scientific literature on various diets and exercise programs and ways of extending life. So it gives you the template within which to interpret modern research. It isn't a model that one tries to follow faithfully because, of course, that's impossible given the conditions of the modern world.
Sure.
Nonetheless, I believe we should have nutritionally dense, low-calorie food, high in fiber, and a natural origin, combined with nuts and meat and fresh fruits, and forget just about everything else that's been introduced into the modern diet since the last close to 10,000 years. So from an empirical perspective, it's easy to see that our ancestors lived on foods that are very different from what we live on, and yet, as of 100,000 years ago, we have essentially the same genome with very minor modifications for regionalization and such. And you put those two pieces together, plus the abundant evidence in favor of the low carb diet, and you come up with a package very much like what I do. If I can just talk a second about the activity side of it as well,
yeah,
that integrates in with the eating that I do. And the activity has to be not chronic, but brief, acute, intermittent stresses with ample rest and language periods and lots of play. It has to be a playful kind of intense exercise. And then the third ingredient, of course, is to bring in intermittent eating. Intermittent fasting is something our ancestors always had to practice, like it or not.
Right.
And finally, I believe that we can draw from the evolutionary record and from modern research the point of view that we are the active genotype, not the thrifty genotype, and that activity integrated with intermittent fasting and kind of healthful eating that we've been talking about together produce a healthful expression of the active genotype.
Okay. So, now you did mention that you practice intermittent fasting, but that would be, you're not saying that you're a caloric restrictor, but different intermittent fasting that would be more similar to what our ancestors endured. And that's the reasoning, right? Hello, Professor Vany? Well, it appears we may have a little audio issue here with the phone call. We're getting a little static here. Boy, technical troubles tonight are bothering us here on the program. So I'm unsure. I'm probably going to have to redial Professor Devaney here in just a second. So let's just hold on a second while I get him back on the phone here and see if we can get a clear connection once again. Unsure why it dropped out. Okay, we're going to be dialing you up once again. Of course, anyone familiar with Skype, familiar with the dial tone here? Well, let's see if he comes back in.
Hi, I'm here.
Well, hello, Professor Devaney. Welcome back again. Sorry about that. I'm unsure exactly what happened with the phone line there. It did appear to fade out a little bit. But
Sure.
You're coming through loud and clear right now. I was just asking a question between caloric restriction and intermittent fasting. I assume that you would do the intermittent fasting instead of caloric restriction because that would be more similar to what our ancestors had to endure. Is that correct?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Right. In fact, I wrote a very difficult, long technical paper on this, trying to model that kind of energy dynamics between prey and energy expenditures, and clearly intermittent depletion of energy reserves was a reasonably common phenomenon. Starvation was rare. We know that from the evolutionary record, but yes, intermittent fasting is what I do.
Intermittent fasting, the paleo diet, basically you're talking about meat and nuts and fibrous vegetables, some fruits, correct?
Yeah.
A little bit, yeah. And basically nothing else that's produced in the modern agricultural system. It's particularly, I suppose, grains are something that you would tend to avoid, right?
That's correct. Grains, beans, rice, and any products made thereof.
Yeah.
Cereals, all kinds.
And I just want to get a little bit of a little background on where you came, how you came into this, and what got you interested in this type of diet and fitness program. I know you've always been a very active person and a professional athlete in the past, but at what point did you finally delve scientifically into what is the most optimum diet or what is the most optimum exercise program? How long have you been studying this?
Since the blizzard of '79 in Chicago, Illinois.
And it must have been almost like a specific moment or an epiphany, if it was a blizzard, if you remember the exact...
I do. My 2-year-old son developed type 1 diabetes, and I was at the University of Chicago at the time, and I went straight to the bookstore and bought everything I could on metabolism and physiology, and I've been studying the problem ever since. And we arrived at my diet, our diet, I should say, empirically, simply by testing blood sugars frequently and with care, and noting what foods and what activities did affect blood sugar levels. And we specifically really got heavily into it in about 1984 because my wife at the time also, who's now passed away, became a type 1 diabetic as well. So we really had to be very careful. And what I noticed, particularly with my wife, was that she loved pasta. And every time she had even the smallest bit of pasta, her blood sugars would go through the roof. So over time, we tested foods, and of course, they all ended up being the starchy, grain-based, the grain-based starches for the most part. It would cause